Welcome to the Elite BSC podcast, where our entire focus is helping commercial janitorial contractors succeed. You want a growing company, a thriving team, and healthy profits, and we are here to help. My name is Jordan Tong. I'm the founder of Elite BSC, a company dedicated to helping janitorial companies grow and thrive. I also serve as CEO and one of the owners of France Building Services. France is a janitorial company employing nearly 600 people. Since 2007, we grew from 1.5 million to more than 20 million in annual revenue and built what I think is one of the best teams in the world. The goal of Elite BSC and this podcast is to give owners in the industry a vision of where their company can be and the information and tools to get there. I want to share what I have learned over the years to make this a reality for you. Hey guys, it's Jordan here with Elite BSC. So in today's episode, we are going to talk about leading indicators. So it's common in any business management conversations to talk about the things that we should be measuring in our organizations. There's an oft repeated phrase: you cannot manage what you don't measure. And there is a lot of truth to that, particularly when it comes to things that you can actually measure in a quantitative sort of way. And so we should be measuring things to help give us a better understanding of how the operation is going, how the business is going. And one of our tendencies is that we typically pick lagging indicators to help us measure the health and performance of our organization. So, and lagging indicators are basically things that let you look back into the past, whether that's the past, month or year or whatever, and see how you've done. And in our industry, the most common one of those, and to be quite honest, this is true for us too, has always been to measure things based on our P&L statement, our profit and loss statement. So after the month is closed, in a given month, and then once we get payroll done, et cetera, maybe within a week and a half or 2 weeks of the close of a month, we're able to pull financials and see how we did from an accrual standpoint on our business in that particular month, and that shows us how we've done in the past. Now, here's the problem: lagging indicators will often tell us how we did in the past, but they have no idea, they have no value in telling us what the future is going to look like. And so, this rings true for me too, just on an existential level, because I remember waiting sort of with anticipation at the financial results at the end of a given month, because I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't have, I wouldn't be shocked if we made little to no money, and I wouldn't be shocked if we did well. Like I didn't know what to expect. And I think that's a problem. Now, don't get me wrong, like we do need to know how things go in the past, and so we certainly do look at profit and loss statements every month here, and along with some other lagging indicators. But having lead indicators is something that I think that's important, and let me maybe unpack a little bit. So lagging indicators look at things that are behind, so profit and loss statement, maybe employee turnover, that sort of thing. And lead measures are things that you are measuring that will help predict how you will do on some other lagging indicator later on. So let me give you an example of that to put some context to it. So let's say you're in a manufacturing plant, and there's one of the things you're trying to do is keep there to be like any lost time injuries, which is a big thing in nearly all manufacturing settings, is that they're trying to prevent any injuries. So they have a massive safety culture, and usually there's lots of danger that is lurking in a manufacturing plant. And so let's say that there are certain actions that can be taken on a regular basis that they know over time help produce a safe environment that ends up getting the safety results that they're looking for. So maybe it means weekly meetings that everyone is in attendance in. Maybe there are certain procedures that people follow or checklists that they do every day at the beginning of their job, or whatever it is. And measuring how often those things, we'll call them those preventative things, get done will be a good indicator of whether or not they'll actually end up being safe and have little to no lost time incidents. So measuring the things, the proactive things, can help determine or give you a good idea or a good prediction of what the end results will be. So another example, like imagine, let's keep it in the manufacturing plant. Let's say that you have a certain product that you are producing and you're trying to do it with minimal defects. And you know that there's a certain number of, let's say, quality control inspectors that you need to have, and a certain amount of randomized sampling you need to do in order to ensure that you have minimal defects in your products. Maybe you have a certain number that you're trying to achieve. And so you know that if you have the right protocols in place and you're executing on them, then you'll end up getting that defect rate that you're looking for or staying underneath it. And so you're measuring and tracking maybe, whatever quality control measures it would be in order to predict what the defect rate will be in the future. So it's my contention here that we need to do a bit more of that in our industry. Instead of looking at just the P&L statement and crossing our fingers and hoping it's good in a given month, it's helpful to be tracking some things that will give us an idea of how that P&L might look. And the advantage of this is that it allows you not only to predict a little bit what's going to happen, which can be really helpful in decision making, but it also allows you to correct course within a given time period. So if you're able to see, like, man, we're trending on some of these lead indicators in a way that's not good, we could turn those around a little bit in order to work to get the outcome that we're looking for at the end of the the month or the quarter or whatever it is. So let's go through a few of these real quick, and I'll just give you some. We'll look at some typical lagging indicators that are common in our industry. And then we'll look at some possible lead indicators that may help us predict how we would do. And my encouragement to you would be to think about these lagging indicators and which one of the lead indicators might be helpful for you to do a better job of getting the results that you want on the lagging indicators. So the first one, and we've brought this example up multiple times already, is the monthly P&L statement. So that's the lagging indicator. So it's a month out, a month past when the actual event took place, and we're wanting to know how we did financially in a given month. So we can look back and say, oh, we did on budget, ahead of budget, behind budget, whatever, in July or August. And however, a leading indicator, and I think this is probably the most, if you're going to measure one thing that's going to help predict that, is going to be your daily hours budgets. So if you have an idea from, like, if you've budgeted for each of your jobs, like, I know that if I work this many hours, we're going to make this amount of profit. Because labors are far and away our number one expense. Other expenses are basically negligible, with minimal variety in them or fluctuation. And so we know that if we're working the amount of hours and we're not going over budget, we can predict with a decent level of accuracy how profitable we're going to be, particularly from a direct or a gross margin standpoint. So, and this also allows you to course correct in the middle of a month if you need to. So let's say things get out of control in January and February. You know that in order to hit maybe the number you're wanting at the end of the year, you can start monitoring things on a daily basis to get the kind of outcome you're looking for in that given month, which will then translate to the given year. So daily hours budgets would be one thing to measure and be tracking. So in order to get you a P&L result, a lagging indicator result that you're looking for. So another one would be cash flow is a leading indicator. So for some people, this means just I'm going to look at my bank account and see, do we still have money? Is our money increased from the last time I looked, or has it decreased? And that shows you what is the case now, looking back at what has happened. And so a possible good leading indicator to predict that you're going to have good cash flow is to be monitoring your invoice aging. So how many invoices do you have out that are past due, that are 30 to 45 days, 45 to 60 days, 60 to 90 days? And that if you are working to keep those and maybe put a plan in place in order to make sure nothing gets past 45 days, then you're going to help drive down the negative cash flow and improve cash flow by doing that. And so that proactive thing that you're able to measure on a daily basis is going to help predict what your cash flow is going to look like in a given period. So now let's switch over to maybe an employee-related thing. Let's look at turnover. So a lagging indicator that I think a lot of us track is employee turnover. We want to see, how many people have went through the organization and left, and we've had to rehire for those positions. And we know when that number starts getting high, it can create some problems for us in several ways. So it can hurt morale. It can hurt the perceived, the perception of the customer towards us. They don't like a revolving door. It could create quality issues. And there's a whole host of extra expense in hiring. There's a whole host of problems that could potentially pop up in that. So some possible leading indicators, like, okay, how can we know if we are going to be able to keep turnover low? So, for instance, and these are just possibilities. Okay, we actually, I don't know how good of a job we're doing with some of these at our own organization, but if I'm thinking hypothetically here. So let's say that employee turnover is the thing we're wanting to track, and if we know one of the reasons for increased turnover is that we rush in our hiring and we get under pressure and we need people on site immediately because we got work to be done. And so we end up hiring people or saying yes to people we know that we probably shouldn't. And so perhaps a leading indicator could be the number of applicants per job opening that we have. So maybe we aim for a certain amount of pre-qualified candidates in our pipeline at all times. And that's something we can measure at any given moment. And we know that when we have that, we're going to do a better job of selecting. Or perhaps another leading indicator might be that everyone has gone through the onboarding process properly. Or maybe there's a certain level of employee engagement that we can track and, make sure that we've had 3 or 4 or 5 personal touches with every new hire, within the first 2 weeks or something. So there could be leading indicators or activities that we're doing and monitoring that will help predict how we're going to do on that lagging indicator. So a last one this is customer related here is going to be customer retention. So we look back and we're always looking at what is our defect rate. So what customers have dropped off, what is that retention rate, and what is that lost business rate that we have in a given period. And customer retention is often one we would measure annually. We look at it every month in our organization, but it's difficult to think about, okay, what would we measure in order to be proactive with it? So it's almost always a look behind. We lose a customer and then we assess how we're doing with customer retention. Or we get our customer retention maybe is looking poorly in a given time period and we think, well, crap, that's not good. How do we fix that? So I think that there's a couple things that maybe we could do here. And these are actually items that we're doing in our own organization. One could be net promoter scores or some other scoring system that you're getting feedback from your customer and where you're getting a gauge on a regular basis of how satisfied they are with your work. And that the higher those scores are on an ongoing basis, the more likely you're going to retain those customers. So that would be a lead indicator. Let's say you've got a ranking system and it's a 1 out of 10. You want to make sure that you've got all of your customers above a 7 or above an 8 or whatever it is. And you want to know, hey, we want 95% of our customers above that number on an ongoing basis. And then you can make course corrections along the way to keep those numbers high. And if there are mistakes or trends that are negative early on, you can fix those before it's too late. So anyway, these things I think can be helpful. It helps frame maybe the question a little bit different, and it just allows you, I think, to simply put, it allows you to be a more proactive manager of your organization, that you're going to be doing things in the present and monitoring them and being intentional about them in order to drive the kinds of results you're looking for long term. So I'd encourage you to think about some of this. Look at the lagging indicators that you do measure, and think about what activities you could be measuring on the front end on maybe a daily or weekly basis that might help predict how those lagging indicators are actually going to turn out. And I think these will turn into good leading indicators that help you manage the organization better. So I hope this is helpful. Good luck in trying to implement some of this, and we will see you next time. If you found the information in this podcast helpful, please like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you're using. If you would like more resources or help to grow your cleaning company, head over to elitebsc.com. We have loads of articles, videos, free tools, coaching options, and a lot more. If your company is greater than $500K in revenue and you want to take your learning experience to the next level, check out our mastermind group. You can learn more about that at elitebsc.com/mastermind.